Okay, this is a laminate countertop installation. Just want to give you some basics about how the installation of laminate countertop goes. Basically, this is a U-shaped kitchen. You see the left-hand wall here. You got the center of the sink there already cut out. And we fitted everything. So as you're fitting your cabinets, you see how well they touch the walls, see how well they come in contact. If you've got to make adjustments, scribing to the walls, that kind of thing. After you do your fitting, the first thing you're going to do is determine how you're going to place your bolts and mount your bolts. I wanted to show you with this video how we do that. We use a Gorilla Grip by Monumental Toolworks. That actually is a seam leveling system for stone, but we use it in laminate application. I'll bring you back in just a minute when we have that hooked up and ready to put the bolts on. Okay, we've got the Gorilla hooked up, and that noise is going to be the Gorilla's compressor. So you can close the lid just a little bit. So the pads here actually have individual valves that bring and suck the pads down to the surface. These tumblers work an actuator that opens and closes the seam. This is a crossover for the vacuum line between the two, and these are parallel steel joints that run inside of each one that create a perfectly flat surface. Now you put one in the front after you've aligned your front edge. You put one in the front, you put one in the back, and like this for instance is a voided corner where there would be no access normally to get to the bolts. Bring you right back and I'll show you how we handle that. Alright, so now you can see the corner is completely pulled together and held together tight. Lift that edge up. The suction is great enough that it'll actually lift the entire top and holding the seam together. There's the voided corner that we couldn't get into, so we're actually going to pull the pieces together. So with the seam captured by the pads, we just pull it out over the other cabinet. The pads holds everything together. We go in through the bottom of the cabinet with the drawer pulled out, and we're able to put that together and slide the whole U-shape back in place. The other side's a void corner as well, so we'll be doing that on both sides. Okay, with that side set and the bolts are on it, we split the pads and we move one of the pads to the other side where we line up the front nose and hold everything together. The miter bolts are put together underneath the surface. Into the pre-notched holes and tightened with an 11 or a 7/16 wrench. As you can see right here, we use a color match caulking to help seal the seam. And we put enough in it that it comes up all the way down the seam. Makes for a little more clean out, but we know for sure we don't have a dry seam. I'll take you back when we go to put it down now. Okay, now both seams are hooked up. We've got all the dog bones in the corners, holding the miter bolts together there with those. So for our blind adhesives, which is going to be where we're actually in that void corner, we can't get there to put any kind of fastener. So for blind adhesives, we use a Bondaflex SIL's 100 series. Bondaflex is a RTV. This has a pretty strong odor to it, but it dries in about 35 to 40 minutes totally cured. So even if you're putting something down, by the time you clean up, your countertops are fastened. So we use this as an adhesive system. Now, as far as Bondaflex goes, you can get that in any of your secondary source places. We order it from a place called Chemical Concepts, and it is a licensed product for them. We're not paid to say that. It's just a great product, so we want to endorse it with what we do. All right, so next thing we're going to do is I'm going to reach over into the voided corners here and here, and I'm going to put adhesive on the sides of the 2x4s where the countertops are going to touch. And we don't do this as a more is better kind of thing. We basically do this in a strategic spot. It's basically 2 inches out, and we put a pretty good size spot of it, but there's nothing under there as far as buildup to reach 8 inches out. So we just do that on both sides like that. Same thing over here on the corner. Kind of hard to do when you're videoing at the same time. All right, here we're going to do that, and over there. And as long as you pick the top up and don't smear all of your adhesive away, this will be there when you go to actually put the top down. Again there, and then we already have done it there. All right, so we're ready now to pick this big U-shaped top up, slide it back and set it down. I'll bring you back when we're done. Okay, so we've slid the countertop back in place. We went ahead and went around and took the drawers out, put in some screws, and pulled the countertops up flush to the walls. What we do now is we adjust the seam. So we go back to our pad. These J-shaped hooks actually fit under the bars like that, and they allow you to pull high or low. That make that seam just as clean and perfect as possible. So we leave the seam sealer on there and to this point so we don't have a dry seam when we go to move things. If you clean the sealer off too quick, the seam dries out almost within 5 or 10 minutes. So doing it this way makes it a lot easier. You have a little more time to work the seam before it goes away. So what we do now is we just feel the edge of that. Got a little bit of a hump, so we're going to run that up. Hump goes away. So we're now just about in trouble one more time. Right there, we're down flat. Now for just a few minutes, you want to let that set so that the pressure will cause one side to go down, the other side to come up and equalize. And then when you do that, you come back to it and now you're clear, you're totally flush. You'll do the same thing on the front and the back using the little hooks to level things. Once you get everything done, you go back and clean the seam off. You might have to do a little bit more as far as adjusting stuff when you finish cleaning, but otherwise when you're done, you may have to shim underneath one side or the other according to how level the original cabinets were, but you can make the seam pretty much flat all the way back. If you have any questions about this, feel free to give me a call at 423-650-1051. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.